The day before one of NASCAR's most unpredictable races, Kyle Larson was not in a garage. He was not studying setup sheets or walking the banking at Talladega Superspeedway. He was standing in an NHRA pit lane at zMAX Dragway in Charlotte, North Carolina, wearing shorts, his family beside him, watching Nitro funny cars fire up for Q1 warm-ups. And at one point, he climbed inside one, not to drive it, just to feel it run. That raises one very specific question. What does a man who drives 900 horsepower think about 11,000? It was Friday, April 25th, 2026, less than 24 hours before Larson was due in Alabama for another Cup Series weekend. Instead of preparing for banking and bump drafting at Talladega, Larson spent the afternoon where horsepower hits different. He showed up the way a lot of race fans show up, in shorts, family in tow, wandering through pit spaces and taking it all in. No fire suit, no mandatory appearances, no pressure attached. He made his way to the John Force Racing Camp, visiting with HendrickCars.com teammates Josh Hart and Jack Beckman. If you didn't know who he was, he looked more like a fan killing time than one of America's most accomplished racers. And walking alongside him was Rick Hendrick himself, a man Jack Beckman's crew described as a car guy's car guy, wearing his Hendrick colors in the NHRA pits. Then came the moment that got people talking. Larson and his son both squeezed into Beckman's peak Chevy funny car, not just a look from the outside. Both of them inside the car with the engine running. That one image tells you everything about what kind of racer and what kind of fan Kyle Larson actually is. That moment also exposes one of drag racing's most persistent problems. Television cannot show you what Nitro actually feels like. TV can show flames, smoke, and scoreboards. It cannot show your chest vibrating from header cackle or your eyes watering from Nitro in the air. Those two sensations, the sound that hits your ribcage and the fumes that sting your face, are things a broadcast simply cannot transmit. Larson understood exactly what he was there for. He said he had one thing he hoped might happen before he left. I would like to sit in it while they're running it, but that's about the extent that I want to go, Larson said. I don't ever want to go down the track, but I've actually sat and I'm good buddies of JR Todd's. I've been in his car before while they fired it, and it's unreal. So just the smell, the noise, all of it, it's so cool. That quote is unintentionally the most effective piece of NHRA marketing you'll hear all year, because Larson is not describing something he watched. He's describing something he felt, and that distinction is drag racing's biggest argument for live attendance. You have to be there, and Larson, by showing up with his family and putting himself in that car, is making that argument without being asked to. This was not Larson's first time around the NHRA world. His connection to the sport runs deep, rooted in a friendship with Top Fuel driver JR Todd that dates back to 2011. Over a decade of exposure to Nitro racing before Friday's visit. When you have a friend in a sport, you pay closer attention to it, and Larson has been paying attention for a long time. Yeah, for sure, Larson said when asked if NASCAR racers are closet drag racing fans. And then, like I said, I've known JR Todd since like 2011, so I've been around it quite a bit, and when you have a friend in it, you pay more attention to it, and you're even a bigger fan. Growing up in California, Larson attended Sonoma Raceway regularly in qualifying days and race day rounds, watching NHRA events as a kid before he ever drove anything professionally. That background matters because it means his appreciation for drag racing is not performative. It is the same kind of cross-disciplinary passion that runs throughout motorsports at every level. But yeah, growing up in California, I would go to Sonoma Raceway about every year for a qualifying day and some of the race days, Larson said. And two, I feel like a lot of these teams are based in Indiana. So a lot of them are dirt racing fans, and that's what I did for or do still. The crossover between dirt racing and drag racing communities is real and well documented. Sprint car people know funny car people. The circles overlap constantly, as Larson put it directly. But yeah, it's a small community. It's still racing community, but it's a small community. At some point on Friday, someone asked Larson the obvious question, what would 11,000 horsepower feel like? His answer was immediate and honest. No, I couldn't, because I know what 900 feels like, and that's a beast, Larson said. So gosh, so much more than that would be incredible. He drives a 900 horsepower NASCAR Cup car and calls it a beast. That is not understatement. That is context, and the gap between 900 and 11,000 is not something the human mind can easily process. Larson's reaction, genuine awe, reflects that gap accurately. And then came the most honest line of the day. There's only however many lucky amount of people that have experienced that in their life, but I guess it's not one that I really want to experience just because I would be scared. That answer earns full respect in any Nitro pit. Fear in top fuel or funny car is not weakness. It is evidence that you understand what those cars are capable of. Drivers and crew members in the Nitro world respect someone who acknowledges the stakes rather than performing bravado. Larson did not come to zMAX Dragway alone. He brought family and friends, many of them experiencing NHRA live for the very first time, and his reasoning for doing so was straightforward. Drag racing makes its best impression at the gate, not through a screen. And get to bring friends and family out here and have them experience it for their first time is something I always enjoy. Bringing new people to these, because you don't fully get the experience when you're watching on TV, Larson said. He added, you have to come to one of these to actually know what it's like. And usually, when you bring somebody, they keep returning. That last line is what every NHRA marketing team should be printing on a banner. When someone feels the concussion of a Nitro pass for the first time, they tend to come back. Larson has known this since Sonoma in the early 2000s, and he is actively passing that experience on to people in his circle. After Larson's visit, zMAX Dragway's official account posted a clip with the caption, "Maybe just a burnout one day." That line, simple as it is, represents exactly what fans would love to see. Kyle Larson behind the wheel of a funny car, if only for a single burnout. It has not happened, but the fact that it is now being discussed publicly says something. Now step back and consider where Larson actually stands in 2026, because the timing of this visit is worth noting. Heading into Talladega, Larson was carrying a 34-race winless streak, his longest drought since joining Hendrick Motorsports in 2021. His last Cup win came at Kansas Speedway in May 2025. The new NASCAR championship format, which rewards points consistency across 26 races before a 10-race playoff, is being tested against Larson's naturally aggressive, high-risk style. He recorded two 32nd place finishes in the first 9 races of 2026, both from on-track mistakes. At Atlanta, he misjudged a block and hit the wall. At Darlington, running alone with 10 laps to go, he hit the wall again. Both were unforced. Both were costly. Analysts at The Athletic noted the pattern directly. Jeff Gluck pointed out that the new format was supposed to suit Larson. He led the overall standings under the old system in 2025. But the mistakes are now compounding in ways they did not before. He currently sits 10th in the point standings, trailing leader Tyler Reddick by a significant margin. At Kansas, Larson looked like he had finally broken through. He made a bold 3-wide move on the final restart, cleared the field, and was pulling away, until Reddick ran him down on the last lap. Reddick passed him in turn 3 and drove away, claiming his 5th win of the season and leaving Larson with a runner-up finish. Crew chief Cliff Daniels addressed the team's situation in background conversations with reporters. His message, relayed through Jordan Bianchi of The Athletic: "This is the adversity you're going to learn from, and these are the moments we're going to be tested. No panic, build off it." Meanwhile, Reddick's dominance is historically significant. 5 wins in 9 races puts him in the company of Richard Petty, 1975, Cale Yarborough, 1977, and Dale Earnhardt Sr., 1987, the only other drivers in NASCAR's modern era to achieve that mark. That is the backdrop against which Kyle Larson spent his Friday at an NHRA event. He was not resting. He was not preparing. He was watching Nitro funny cars fire up and putting his son in the cockpit of one, because that is what he wanted to do with his free time. "Honestly, I do get to do that quite a bit throughout the year," Larson said. "I mean, with my kids racing and I go to sprint car races still some throughout the year, but it is nice, especially here in Charlotte, close to home." That detail, a NASCAR Cup champion who spends his downtime at sprint car races and NHRA events, is a reminder that the passion that drives professional racing does not disappear when the race weekend ends. Larson is a racing fan who happens to race at the highest level. The two things are not separate. That is exactly why his visit to zMAX Dragway was not a PR appearance. It was genuine. Motorsports across every discipline shares the same foundation. People who cannot stop being fascinated by what machines and drivers are capable of. Larson that Friday was not the 2025 NASCAR Cup Series champion. He was a fan who grew up going to Sonoma Raceway, who has known J.R. Todd for over a decade, who wanted to sit in a funny car and feel the engine run, and who brought his family along so they could feel it too.